I just wanna be your morning light.
Hi, I'm Tanya Staggs, and I'm the Director of Education for Historic Castalian Springs. Now, you might wonder, what is Historic Castalian Springs? So I want to introduce you to it right here. And you might see behind me a structure that you're familiar with, and that is Wynwood. Wynwood is one of the sites of Historic Castalian Springs. We also include Cragfont and Hawthorne Hill. Now, if you've been around this area for very long, or if you're familiar with these sites at all, you may know that they have operated independently for many years. Cragfont's been open since the 1960s, Wynwood since the 1970s, and so these houses have had kind of their own way of operating, but they are all part of our Tennessee Historic Commission site. So they're all owned by the state. So we've decided to combine the three houses under the same management, which will be known as Historic Castalian Springs, to kind of give a nod to this whole community here. The thing that ties these three houses together is this community, which is largely based on the springs, which are way down there behind me. Bledsoe Springs, which first started drawing people here to the area 15,000 years ago with Native Americans, and the mound builders would eventually create a village here, the Mississippian culture, and you can see the mounds behind me, the mound site there. And so we have this long history of people coming here, and when settlement started to begin into what we refer to as the Western Frontier, what we now know as our state of Tennessee, people started coming here very early. So Isaac Bledsoe, Bledsoe Fort, and this is one of the first places they settled, mostly because of the springs here. The springs created salt deposits, which attracted game, and people were attracted to hunting that game, and you have this really rich area in minerals and game and all kinds of resources. So we have people coming here throughout that time period. Cragfont is kind of the oldest of our structures. So Cragfont was built by General James Winchester between 1798 and 1802. And it was this really grand mansion on the western frontier. And Tennessee was just a few years old as a state when it was completed being built. And then we have Hawthorne Hill coming in after that. And you may not be very familiar with Hawthorne Hill. It's not been open to the public. It is a state-owned historic site, but we do hope to open it to the public eventually and have guided tours there. But Hawthorne Hill was built somewhere around 1805, and it's a really good example of kind of a middle-class federal structure. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of those structures here to us in Tennessee today. Because many of those buildings, they weren't considered very significant. They weren't huge mansions like Cragfont, and so they were torn down over time. So having Hawthorne Hill is really a very special place because it gives us a glimpse into the lives of most people, kind of the middle class. Then we have Wynwood here, which was built sometime around 1828 to 1830. And was first known as Castalian Springs, or the Castalian Springs Inn. And Wynwood is very different from almost any historic house museum, not just historic house museums here in Middle Tennessee, but in the whole country, because it's not just a house, it was also an inn. It was kind of used as both purposes over time, and it is likely the largest 19th century log structure here in Tennessee and maybe beyond. So it is really a special site, not just due to its architecture, but because of the land it's built on, because we're here closest to Bledsoe Springs here at Wynwood. You can kind of see back here behind us. That was the drawing point of all these people over time to come here and settle this area and create eventually Sumner County which is an important building block of early Middle Tennessee. I want to explain a little bit more about why these three sites have merged together under the management of Historic Castalian Springs. Now, all three of these sites have great stories to tell, incredible stories to tell, that in fact tell the history of Sumner County and are important to this community. And one of the things that we want to do is focus our interpretation of these three sites on their individual stories. What makes each one unique, but also what ties these places together and why they are so important to this community. So maybe you visited Wynwood 10 years ago, maybe Cragfont 15 years ago, and had a great and wonderful experience. But we want you to know that the tour that you experience now may be a little bit different. It's not that it's better than the tour that you had 10 or 15 years ago, but you may hear stories that we haven't told before. You may learn things that you didn't learn before when you visited us. We're also working on our collections and trying to kind of hone our collections into telling the best stories that we can at each of these sites. So we want the things that are in these structures to tell the story as much as the words we're using to tell the story. So we have a really unique collection of historic sites that we can say almost no other community has. We have Cragfont, which is a federal Georgian style mansion on the frontier, the grandeur of the frontier. We have Wynwood, which was a mineral springs resort and an incredibly huge log structure that is probably one of a kind here in Tennessee. And we also have Hawthorne Hill, which in its kind of simplicity makes it unique because it's one of those rare examples of middle class in early Tennessee. So we're just really have such an incredible opportunity here to tell this story with these three wonderful sites. And we hope that you will visit us and learn what we have to offer now, because it may feel quite different than what we have done in the past. And all of that work that's been done in the past was work to get us to where we are now, so that we can continue to tell this story in the best possible way and get folks interested in the history that's in their own backyard. There are so many different ways that you can support us here at Historic Castalian Springs. First off, we hope that you come to visit us. We will be offering tours of Wynwood and Cragfont. You can also buy a combination ticket where you can visit both of those sites if you wish. Hawthorne Hill is not open to the public just yet, but we are hoping to do special programs that will include some sneak peeks into that historic building, and also we'll be working towards in our long-term goals of bringing that into a guided tour as well. So you can find how to buy tickets at our website. You can buy the tickets on site at either location, at Wynwood or at Cragfont. We will still be open seasonally, so be sure to check our website on what our seasonal hours will be. That's another one of our long-term goals, is that we hope to eventually be open all year long, or at least most of the year, extend that season so that we can share more of our history with you. And also you can support us right from your own home. So if you can't get out here to visit Historic Castalian Springs, we have an Amazon wish list that has items that we need for both sites, well, really all three sites, and those items are to help support our collection needs, so it goes to help us take care of the collection. It also, many of those items are there to help us do programs and offer more programming than either of the sites have done before. Many of those items on the wish list go directly to education programming, which we hope to get started with field trips in the near future as well. So it's a really easy way to support us, that you can just click on that item on Amazon, purchase it for us, it comes straight to us, and we'll put it right to use. You can also just give us a donation. If you want to earmark where that donation goes to, education, collections, that sort of thing, you can certainly do that. and you can make donations through our website as well. So those are just a couple ways that you can support us. Another way is to follow us on social media. Always like our posts. That gets more people to learn about us. And of course, if you do come and visit and you have a great experience, then we would love you to leave us a review on TripAdvisor or somewhere on the internet so people can find out more about us. Sumner County has an incredible amount of historic sites, and they all have great stories to tell, and we're so lucky that these 3 sites are able to kind of combine their resources and have just this incredible experience to offer you, the visitor. So we hope that very soon you will join us at the Springs.